Hey guys, this video is sponsored by Audible, and I'm giving away a free month linked in the description below. If you haven't heard me talk about Audible before, it's what I use to listen to all of the Star Wars books that are out there today. There are thousands of different titles to choose from, and not just Star Wars, but many other genres as well, including bestsellers and new books. Now, the thing with Audible that I really like is that I can do whatever I want throughout the day, driving, walking, working out, and I can listen to my Star Wars audiobook at the same time. Now, everything is officially licensed by Lucasfilm. For example, the Brotherhood audiobook, you're getting prequel music from the prequels, from episode 2 mainly. Everything is narrated very nicely. There are different voice actors sometimes that come on the different audiobooks, such as Dooku Jedi Lost, which is a fantastic one, which talks about Dooku's backstory when he was a younger Jedi. However, the one audiobook I want you guys to check out before Andor comes out is Tarkin. Now, the Tarkin audiobook is pretty cool, and there's slight spoilers that I'm going to give away here, but it covers everything about Tarkin in his early life, as well as his life today in the Empire, of course, before Episode 4. But there's a ton of story with him and Vader, and how he actually suspects that Vader is Anakin Skywalker. There's a ton of backstory with him and Palpatine as well, and we get to learn more about his point of view of the Sith, of Anakin, of Vader, and the Jedi as a whole during the Clone Wars. Now, each month that you are a member, you get a free token, which gives you access to one free audiobook of your choice, and you get to keep that, whether you are a member or not anymore. Grab your free month, go to audible.com/Star Wars Theory, or text Star Wars Theory to 500 and get your free month now.
Hey guys, so I was going through the community tab and I requested for you to put some suggestions down for fanfictions that I either haven't completed or new ones entirely. And a lot of you suggested that I continue the What If I Wrote the Last Jedi fanfiction. So I didn't really do that today, but what I did is a sort of bridge between episode 8 and episode 9 in my own way. And it's something I'm really interested in and want to see for sure, which is, well, you're going to see in a minute here. So this is sort of like a What If I Rewrote The Last Jedi, but it's really just the ending, but it's also a tie-in to What If I Wrote Episode 9. And I don't really know what I'm going to title this video as, but it's basically just sort of a episode 8.5, so to speak. Or maybe how I wish episode 8 fully ended at the end. Maybe like a post-credit scene if they want to go all Marvel, which I'm not really a fan of for Star Wars. Now, when I originally started writing this, I wanted to write a episode 9 fanfiction, and it started off like this. So there will be many more parts to this video, which will continue into episode 9, of course. However, as for now, I just want to get this one out, and I want to see what you guys have to say about it too, because I always love hearing your feedback. Now, of course, I'd much rather recreate the sequel trilogy from scratch than have to play with what Rian Johnson left me with 8 and what JJ left me with 7. As I think both lack a ton of depth or consistency with one another. I think if there was proper communication, they would have been much more congruent and had consistency. So anyways, here is episode 8.5, or beginning of episode 9, picking up from episode 8. So imagine this with me. White fills the screen as we see a man's hand make his way through the fog. Luke's robes stick to him as he moves. The laws of gravity don't seem to apply here. But where is he? Where am I? Luke said, his voice echoing into what seemed to be an endless space of nothing. Hello? His desperation and confusion began to get the best of him. For decades now, he had trained as a Jedi, and yet he had never experienced anything like this. A moment ago, he was blinded by the sun on Ahch-To, and now he was walking on this endless path of nothingness in a realm that didn't even seem real. Was this all in his mind? Was this Kylo getting back at him? Had he really grown so powerful? Or was this something else? How could he escape this place? As he continued to walk, he looked for landmarks that gave him a reference to his movement and distance. Nothing. This place was like something out of a dream or a nightmare. He clutched his belt but couldn't find his weapon. Right, he remembered. He gave up that life long ago. Now he doubted his past decisions. Hello? Is anyone there? Where am I? Luke cried out into the neither again, this time his frustration prominent in his tone. A light source. No, 2. Up ahead, in the distance, he could see orbs illuminating the white mist around him, blinding him as he got closer. As he finally neared, he felt the sand move beneath his boots. Luke looked towards the floor, realizing he was now in the middle of a desert. The mist was gone and found him back home on Tatooine as he watched a young blonde boy play with the T-4A Lambda-class shuttle. How was this possible? He was looking at himself, but the boy didn't seem to notice. Luke! Oh, Luke? Dinner's ready. Beru, Luke ran to the door to see her once again. It had been so long since he had seen his aunt's face. As soon as he turned the corner, the sands shifted between the crevices of his boots, and he was looking at two burning skeletons, smoking at the foot of the homestead, where once he looked away for a moment, today he never broke his gaze. The horrors of what he had seen that day were pale in comparison to his life now. In fact, this was all just a mere training of the emotional turmoil that he would come to know later in his life, and not just from his nephew. Luke's Jedi reflexes caused him to duck faster than he could see what was flying overhead. He was on Cloud City as his entire face was covered in crimson light, looking up to see the towering black-clad figure that once was his father, swinging his fire-breathing weapon towards him as he danced around it, the Force guiding him. When he looked up again, he did not see his father, but rather the Emperor firing a barrage of Force lightning at him, blue electricity coursing his body and face like spiders, as one tendril covered his eyes to pass and reveal the face of Anakin Skywalker, seconds before his death, smiling upon his son, proud of the man he became, the man he wished he was. Luke's eyes welled with tears. He moved back. Enough, he thought, with conviction. The white mist returned. Your emotions. Control them. You have not. All these years and he still has much to learn. I was a slow learner too, if you remember. Luke swiveled around, up, down, left, right. He heard them, but he didn't see them. Master Yoda? Father? Ben? Where are you? Away from the Force. For too long you have been. Forgot how to commune. You have. Luke stopped moving. He calmed his mind. His severance from the Force made him rusty. For too long he was away from it all. What a mistake. The very thing he thought would destroy him and the galaxy and the ones he loved was what could have actually prevented so much death. There they were. Father, Ben, Master Yoda. Luke's emotions were heavy. He was seeing his family once again. Boy, is it good to see you guys again. I missed you. We never left you, Luke. You chose not to see us. Fear clouded your decisions. Against your training, it was. My training was what failed Ben. If you were always here, you saw what he did to my students. I was responsible. No, my son, said Anakin. You are not responsible for someone's downfall. We all have choices, and we make them. You can never blame yourself for what happened, but you can blame yourself for not helping to make things right. Anakin put his hand on Obi-Wan's shoulder as he looked into his master's eyes. I suppose I still have much to learn as a Jedi Master. Master? Oh! And what make you think a master you have become? Of the Force? Your emotions? Or your fear? Come, Jedi Master. Much to learn about the Force. We will show you. Come. A long journey we have. Luke took the hands of his father and old Ben as they followed Yoda into the mist to unravel the secrets of the Force. Now, so obviously this is where the fanfiction ends and where, episode 9 really starts. But something I was always very interested in was the Netherworld, the Force itself. What happens when you become a Force ghost? What is that world really like? Now, obviously in episode 8, Ryan wrote that Yoda can now blow things up and use lightning and control the elements of planets and so on and so forth as a Force ghost. And then in episode 9, Luke can, hold a lightsaber. He can raise an X-Wing. So essentially, being dead just means that you are more powerful than you ever were when you were alive. And of course this is cool in a sense, but also it kind of just demeans the point of being alive. But I suppose when you reach a certain level in the Force, you're ready to transcend, and hopefully you can reach that before you do die. Now with Qui-Gon, he didn't reach that point entirely because he didn't complete his training with the Wills. But he got so far that he could at least transfer his essence and his voice into the Force, and not his full form, until now. Of course that's changed and we see that in Kenobi. However, he did teach these abilities to Master Yoda, who taught it to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan taught it to Anakin just as he was dying. He actually reached Anakin in the Force as he turned back into a Jedi, into the light side of the Force, just moments before he actually died. And he told Anakin, he said, look, stop talking so much. And they were speaking to each other in Anakin's head in the Force. Stop talking so much or you will cease to exist forever. Do as I say and you will be able to transfer yourself into the Force like the rest of us. And so of course Anakin did. But what I want to know is, what is that world like? What do you see? What do you feel? Do you feel emotions? Can you manifest yourself into anything? Can you be anywhere in the galaxy? Can you teleport? Can you move objects? Is that some other level of mastery of the Force that you learn after death? What are the limitations? Can you die, fully die as a Force ghost? I mean, if you're going to be able to come back all powerful like that, then shouldn't you be able to at least die as well? I mean, there has to be some sort of level of urgency or mortality, I guess I should say, when you become a Force ghost. Otherwise, it's just a little bit too OP, don't you think? Now, I think maybe this was a realm that George Lucas wanted to perhaps extrapolate on when he was going to make his version of the sequel trilogy, and he had a few. One of them was, of course, to go into the world of midichlorians, which is energy and the Force. But the most recent form of the sequel trilogy that he was going to make, and this is documented, and I've given my sources in the video, George Lucas's sequel trilogy treatment, which comes from Paul Duncan's book, Star Wars Archives, episode 1 to 3, 1999 to 2005. And in the book, there's an interview with George Lucas himself, and it's very, very recent. I think it was in the last 5-6 years or so, where he was talking about his sequel trilogy treatment, and he would have had Maul return training Darth Talon with Luke banding together new Jedi of the Order, and there would be remnants of rogue stormtroopers and rogue Imperials basically just wanting to make their own faction of the Empire, either in Palpatine's name or in their own vein, and there would be a lot of havoc. There would be a big void in the galaxy at this point. I think that would have been really cool to see and really interesting, and I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with Luke speaking with his father and Yoda and Ben as Force ghosts. Because as you know, when we left Luke in Return of the Jedi, he was looking off into the tree when he saw his father, Ben, and Yoda. So where does that story go? And I'm really surprised we didn't see any of that in the sequel trilogy. We saw Yoda for a couple seconds, but he was just super OP and he, blew up the tree and all that. But we didn't really get an understanding of what Luke has been doing and what he's been learning in this time. And hopefully the shows, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, things like that, will explain these things or show these things. But I'm really hoping that we get to understand, maybe even get a show or some sort of a cartoon or a book on what it's like becoming a Force ghost. What sort of things do you see? What do you experience? What kind of powers do you unlock? I think that is super fascinating, and almost more fascinating than, what happens to certain characters going forwards in the real world, because, well, let's be real, it's all about the Force. It's all about the ability to become more powerful in the Force and learn new things. And I think tapping into that world where this realm now is the Force itself, and you're no longer this corporeal form in the galaxy, but you've transcended, you've gone to the next level, you've gone Super Saiyan. I think it's really cool to see how far you can take that level, and if there are even tiers in that Force realm where you can start to level up and learn more and perhaps enhance techniques. So that's a world I would really like to explore in Star Wars, and maybe one day we'll get it. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this fanfiction. Please continue it in the comments below, and as you know, as always, I will continue to make this fanfiction in a part 2, 3, and just continue the story. So let's start this off as, I guess, episode 9, and continue the story on from here. Thanks for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Please find me on Spotify with exclusive content, and I will see you in the next episode on Star Wars Theory. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.